Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists. Now, I don't normally worry about abuse being thrown at me. I've got kind of used to it over the course of the last few years. But to accuse countless millions of being racist...
UK Connors, Farage Boomshell PM forecast. Before you scroll past this, hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to hear is absolutely shatter the political establishment. And trust me, this is only the beginning of a story that's going to reshape British politics. You need to be watching UK Connors to stay ahead of the curve on this. Nigel Farage just did something no mainstream politician dares to do. He walked into a crypto conference in London, looked directly at the host, and when asked if he was speaking to the next Prime Minister, he didn't hedge, he didn't dodge, and he certainly didn't play it safe. He looked straight into the camera and said, "I think so, yes." 3 words. That's all it took to send shockwaves through Westminster and expose just how fragile the current political order actually is. Now, let's be brutally honest here. That's a remarkable claim. In British politics, we have this unwritten rule, this sacred taboo where you don't come across as complacent or arrogant about your chances. Prime ministers don't do this. Opposition leaders certainly don't do this. Yet here's Farage, unapologetically confident, breaking convention like it's a relic from past. And the reason he can afford to do this? Because the numbers don't lie, and the polling data is absolutely staggering. We're talking about Reform UK sitting at 32% in the latest polls. Think about that. That's not fringe territory anymore. That's not a protest vote. That's a seismic shift in British electoral politics. Labour and the Conservatives are both languishing at 17% each. Both at the same level. The Lib Dems are clawing their way to 15%, and they become the official opposition with 72 MPs under any realistic election scenario. This isn't speculation. These are hard numbers, and they represent something we haven't seen in decades, a genuine 3-way or 4-way split in British politics. But here's where it gets really interesting. Farage himself posed a question that every establishment figure is probably asking in their private meetings right now. Is this a reflection of my own incredible charisma, oratory, skills, track record? Or is it that I'm up against a bunch of absolutely useless, the worst political leaders we've ever seen in our lives? That's not arrogance. That's a provocation wrapped in self-awareness. And it's remarkably effective. Because the truth is, it doesn't matter which one it is. What matters is that the answer resonates with millions of people who feel absolutely abandoned by Westminster. And they have every reason to feel abandoned. Nothing is working. Our tax burden has reached levels not seen since the end of World War II. Let that sink in. We've just fought through a global pandemic, and somehow our tax burden is now worse than it was after one of the most catastrophic events in human history. Law and order in London is in freefall. GDP per capita is falling quarter after quarter after quarter. The economic indicators are pointing in precisely the wrong direction, and yet the political class seems paralyzed, unable or unwilling to acknowledge the scale of the crisis they created. And if that wasn't enough, if you dare to criticize the current state of affairs too loudly, you risk a knock on your door from police. Yes, you read that correctly. The Online Safety Act has created an environment where free speech is now negotiable, where speaking your mind can potentially result in police intervention. This isn't tinfoil hat territory. This is happening now, today, in modern Britain. So of course people are looking for an alternative. Of course Reform UK is resonating. The establishment hasn't just failed, it's failed catastrophically, and worse, it's actively suppressing dissent. Farage's strategy is remarkably clear-eyed about this. He knows that traditional two-party politics is dead. Labour used to have a monopoly on the working-class vote. The Conservatives had their middle-class base locked down. But that arrangement has spectacularly collapsed. Labour is hemorrhaging votes to the Greens and the Lib Dems. The Tories are bleeding support to reform from every direction. The political centre cannot hold anymore because the centre doesn't represent anything real. It represents technocratic consensus that has utterly failed the British people on every metric that matters. Now, what's fascinating is where Farage chose to make this bombshell announcement. A cryptocurrency conference. Not the House of Commons. Not a traditional media outlet. A digital asset summit in London. This tells you something crucial about how he's thinking about the future. He's not playing the old game. He's building coalition across different constituencies, libertarians, tech entrepreneurs, people who feel locked out of traditional finance, people who want innovation and freedom rather than more government control. Because here's the thing about Farage's crypto position. It's not random. He has correctly identified that the current regulatory framework in this country is actively hostile to innovation. The Financial Conduct Authority has become a regulator that seems designed to prevent rather than enable progress. We're losing reinsurance businesses to Bermuda. Our financial services sector, which has been Britain's great engine of innovation for centuries, is being strangled by Byzantine regulation that protects nobody and kills opportunity for everyone. Financial services in London has always been about innovation. Go back through the centuries. The City of London has thrived precisely because it was willing to develop new products, to take calculated risks, to lead rather than follow. But right now, we're paralyzed. We have sensible regulation on one hand and ludicrous, suffocating regulation on the other, and there's no middle ground. The crypto market is completely unregulated at one extreme. Meanwhile, we're overregulating equities and everything else to the point where we're actively harming ourselves competitively. Farage was the first prominent person in British politics to genuinely talk about cryptocurrency, to try and legitimize it back in 2020. Why? Because he could see where this was going. While Westminster was still pretending the internet was a passing fad, he understood that digital assets represent a genuine revolution in how money moves, how value is stored, how people interact with financial systems. Reform UK has already published a detailed digital assets and crypto bill. They are not just offering rhetoric, they are offering an actual policy framework that brings this sector in from the cold, as Farage puts it, with proper regulation that enables rather than prevents. This is exactly why reform is resonating beyond just traditional anti-immigration or anti-establishment voters. Farage is speaking to entrepreneurs, to young people, to financial professionals who look at Britain and see a country that's actively making itself uncompetitive. He is offering a radical vision. What if we actually trusted innovation? What if we actually got out of the way and let markets work? What if we had regulation that protected consumers without suffocating the entire industry? But here's the deeper issue that underpins all of this, the elephant in the room that traditional politics refuses to acknowledge. Nothing works anymore. That's not hyperbole. It's not partisan rhetoric. It's a statement of observable fact. Your taxes are at their highest since 1945. Crime is rising. Economic growth per person is negative. Public services are failing. The establishment has no answers, just excuses. And when people try to express their frustration, they get told they are bigots or conspiracy theorists or subject to police investigation. That's a political revolution Farage is describing. Not a revolution of ideology, but a revolution of competence and honesty. A revolution of actually trying things that might work rather than doubling down on policies that have manifestly failed. Reform isn't winning because it's got all the answers. It's winning because everyone else has proven they don't have any answers at all. The polling numbers tell the story. Under any realistic election scenario where these numbers hold, reform becomes a dominant political force in this country, not as a protest vote that evaporates at the ballot box, but as a genuine shift in which party people actually trust to run the country. Farage says is on course to be Prime Minister. Based on the current trajectory, based on Labour eating itself from the inside with infighting, based on the Tories having completely lost their identity in their voters, based on people desperate for something, anything, that resembles competence and honesty, he might actually be right. Is it inevitable? No. Nothing in politics is inevitable. But the momentum is real. The discontent is real. The failures of the current system are real. And for the first time in decades, there's a genuine alternative that's actually offering different ideas rather than just different personalities delivering the same failed policies. This is the story of British politics in 2025, and it's only going to get more dramatic from here. If you want to stay ahead of these seismic shifts, if you want analysis that actually explains what's happening rather than repeating establishment talking points, you know where to find us. Subscribe to UK Connors, because the next few years are going to be absolutely extraordinary.